Hello guys, welcome to the first video of my new YouTube channel I've created to share my learnings and things I've learned over the last 10 years, building things, shipping things. And I hope this channel is able to help you learn new stuff and is able to get you interested in exploring so many cool things that are out there. So let's dive into the first topic that I'll be covering. And the first topic I'll be covering is this super interesting, super cool cloud-based database and an interface that's termed also Supabase, right? And this Supabase is kind of Firebase because it exists in the very same space as Firebase, and what it does is like Firebase, it's also there to serve the needs of persistence that the modern apps have, and it helps you create databases tables using the very non-SQL query syntax. So you log into its interface, you create tables, and then you get a client-side SDK that you can use to talk with the service. Like you can do all sorts of things like authentication, and if you go to the developer documentation and if you see the documentation, so there's an introduction, but the primary, if you see the database, right? So you have a way to create databases, tables, relationships. So everything that PostgreSQL supports, Supabase also supports. And on top of it, there's authentication layer. So every kind of good moderately complex application needs functions to authenticate your users, to authorize your users, and Supabase also ships with kind of all the bells and whistles to support authentication and third-party logins and all. And it ships with a client library that helps you establish a connection with the DB to perform the authentication as well as the CRUD related calls, right? So over the next few videos, we'll try to see how we can use a Next.js application to connect with the Supabase instance, and then we'll be kind of creating authentication system based on Supabase itself. So this was just an introductory video. You can head over to the documentation to understand more about Supabase, or you can read my blog that kind of introduces Supabase and talks about what is Supabase, why should we use Supabase, how Supabase works. So that's also something I've tried to cover. And then how to actually Supabase, like how can you use the keys that are available here in the Supabase to establish a connection with Supabase, right? So let's come to the home page of Supabase, and what you do to connect with Supabase is basically you head over to app.supabase.io, and then you basically go on a project that you have created. Like I've created this SuperAuth project. We'll cover how we create a project and what projects really are, but for now you can understand our projects as application that you're targeting. So you'll have tables under a project, so it's like a database. It's very much like a database that you are establishing a connection to. And within the Supabase interface, there is a section called API, where you can have the URL and the anon keys that you can use to establish a connect with the Supabase server. And that's how you basically create variable, and you basically Supabase, and you use this method called create client to create a instance that you can later use in your applications to call authentication as well as do CRUD related calls. So what we do basically is, like, say that if you're building a to-dos application, then you'll just go in the Supabase interface, you'll use this SQL query builder, you'll come here and you will execute this, right? So you can just do this, and it's just a simple non-adulterated SQL query, and you do a run, right? So a table is already created for us now using the details we have provided. You can use the visual builder also, like there is a table editor that you can use to kind of explore the tables you have created, and there's a to-do table already here. How you insert the values are, like, you can use this interface to insert new values, or you can use this very SQL query editor to insert new values here. Once created, what you basically do is you can access the tables using the Supabase client that we've just created using this Supabase create client method, and then you use this Supabase instance to first select a table, all of its rows, and then you apply some modifiers to change how these results are returned to you. Right, this all gets converted into pure simple SQL queries when they reach the Supabase end of the things. And authentication also is a very simple. Authentication is something that Supabase leverages from a open source module for authentication called GoTrue, that's written in Go and is very fast, right? So authentications are also very easy to perform. So you have this auth namespace, and then you basically do sign up, and then you get return this data and user properties that you can use to determine if your user is authenticated user, or if your user sign up has been successful. So you can do similar things, and Supabase seems really slick and fine, and it might kind of make up for the use cases you are looking for. There are a few things that are still in progress, like there is no equivalent for Firebase functions. There is no equivalent for Firebase storage. I've heard that they are working on all of these functions, and storage might land pretty soon. But till then, if you have simple CRUD needs, then I think you'll love Supabase. So head over to app.supabase to register your app and play with the API. I'll try to cover Supabase in my next few videos by first building authentication system totally around Supabase, and then I'll build a messaging app to show the data pulling and real-time capabilities of Supabase. So see you in the next video. Thank you for joining.